for a look at the crypto space with Renita Young, senior markets correspondent for the network. And so we'll start off with MicroStrategy, arguably the headline story of the crypto world today. Lower after its earnings, revenue and profit fell short, which, I mean, hey, I feel like we've seen stocks punished for a lot less.
You can say that. That's why we see adjusted losses plummeting for the quarter. The loss was at $8.26 versus the expectation of a 34 cent per share earnings. But revenue fell about 5.5% year over year to $115.2 million in the quarter. But these earnings misses were a technicality based on actual crypto accounting rules. Now, assets like Bitcoin are not covered under the long time accounting rules, those legacy rules that are out and that are governing everything else. So many companies actually report Bitcoin as intangible assets, and then they write down their value if they see the price drop or it drops below the purchase price. They can only really record the gains if the assets are actually sold at the end. But the financial accounting standards actually made it possible for businesses to report crypto assets under the fair value accounting rules. And MicroStrategy has yet to adopt this particular standard for it, and it's really kind of taking a beating because of that. But during the quarter, we can say that the company acquired more than 25,000 Bitcoins, and total Bitcoins that they have now, over 214,000, and that's around 1%, a little over 1% of all tokens that'll ever be in circulation. And they did that, and they have it at an average price now of about $35,180 per Bitcoin. But they paid in the quarter more than $65,000 per Bitcoin. And, you know, year to date, this stock is doing pretty well. It's up more than 70% year to date, up more than 250% over the past 12 months.
I'm noticing both Bitcoin and shares of MSTR back down to levels they haven't seen since basically beginning of March, it looks like. So they have come off those recent highs. But looking at shares of MSTR, Renita, they've basically given back half of the rally that we saw. They got up to around 2,000. They're now back to 1,000. I mean, if Bitcoin would have given back half of the rally that we saw to begin this year, I mean, we'd be talking about this stock would be back around the 34,000 level, or if it were given half of its value back. So I was also looking at another name, Riot, which they've been coming off. I mean, we look at the chart there, a completely different example. But I guess in some ways, as I look at this could be maybe a longer term buy opportunity for the bulls that are kind of sticking with this one. You've got Ether ETF expected to come out soon, and there were just some ETFs approved for Hong Kong, I think it was, right, overnight in terms of Bitcoin and Ether.
Yeah, you're right. And Riot Blockchain, they report earnings later today. And you're right, this stock has been beaten down. It's down more than 30% year to date. And analysts are expecting adjusted losses of 21 cents. That would be a substantial decrease year over year from the earnings that it had last year, this time at 4 cents a share. Revenue, however, is expected to grow about 26% to $92.15 million. And that would be up from about $73.2 million a year prior. So there are some mixed expectations for this one. I think they're taking into account demand as well.
The miners have been disappointing, I will say, ever since we saw the regulatory hurdle that passed these ETFs in January. I feel like the miners have not caught a bid. MicroStrategy is like its own beast, but the miners have been somewhat disappointing, and unfortunately today, that's just continuing.
They have, and one of the things that I reported on when the first Bitcoin ETF came out was that it really does take some of the attention away from the miners. It's not necessarily good for miners. At that time, I was talking about Coinbase, but the same for Riot Blockchain. They'll choose investors, many of them will choose the ETFs over these particular types of stocks.
Exactly, and that frothiness that it feels like these crypto investors are chasing, it's like you only have so much to chase when your puzzle's been divided. Yeah. But great breakdown on, unfortunately, what is some moves to the downside today in the crypto world alongside the falling price of Bitcoin. Renita Young, senior markets correspondent for the network.